Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Kinji Fukasaku deep dive, continuing on from his earliest films leading up to his big, more kind of infamous movies, including the Battle Without Honor collection. My kind of aim for this kind of series of videos I'll be doing all the way from Wolf's Pig and Men onwards is to build up to this franchise. I know this is quite extensive. There is, I believe 6 movies on here, including the new Battle Without Honor trilogy did after the fact. So 7, 8, 9, so 9 movies potentially there to check out for the very first time, which I'm quite excited for, but also quite cautious how I'm going to approach it. So many movies in his filmography, it's quite extensive for sure. And he has done also a lot of experimentation, not just Yakuza movies, but also done chamber thrillers. He's also done romantic movies, supernatural kind of fantasy epics. So I'm very excited to check out more as the series kind of goes along. And this one will be a very brief video. I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I didn't really get much out of it. This is The Green Slime. This is a very bizarre one. I'll say more about the production and I'll get onto the film itself. Now, The Green Slime, it does have a Blu-ray release. I think it's distributed by Warner Brothers. I think it was part of the Warner Brothers archive release in the US. So you can get this on a Blu-ray format. I had 2 cuts of the film. I had the US version, which is about 90 odd minutes, and the Japanese version, which is about 77 minutes. Difference is they've kind of took out a kind of romantic kind of plot line, subline to make the film a bit more faster paced and to kind of get to the kind of the good stuff that you kind of turning up for. The Green Slime is a full kind of B-movie, retro kind of, back to the kind of 50s, very 60s in line kind of thing. It feels like almost like a Star Trek episode, like a slightly higher budget one. Doing a bit of research into this film, it's such a bizarre kind of project, being the fact this was a collaboration between MGM and the Toei company, which basically kind of collaborated together, completely shot in Japan with Kinji Fukasaku as the director, co-director in this one, being the fact that I think the visual effects kind of director did most of the kind of practical effects on set, which, if I'm not mistaken, the entire technical crew, in terms of the cameramen, all the operators, everyone who made this film, were all based in Japan as well. The entire thing that's not Japan-based or doesn't have any representation, from what I can gather from the film, is the cast. It's an entire American cast. It's very much a kind of a US kind of, very late 60s kind of film. It feels like it, acts like it, and it's such a bizarre kind of little project. But in terms of the decade it was made in 1968, it kind of just fit, it kind of just makes sense, being the fact this would work really well for the Japanese market in terms of the kaiju movies, the Godzilla films, monster movies. They kind of love that kind of stuff. And for the US as well, also loving kind of, B-movie, schlocky movies, during that kind of time frame, with some recognizable American stars at the helm. So it kind of makes sense in terms of profitability, in terms of how you can market this film, how you can have a slightly higher budget kind of TV episode, essentially Star Trek vein, and just do a monster movie of the week, essentially. In terms of the influence of this film, it kind of led to the kind of a pilot that became very much a staple kind of US kind of programming, which got a reboot as well by Netflix, I believe, called Mystery Theater 3000. I never really seen any of that kind of stuff. I know it's very popular, kind of an anthology, kind of sci-fi kind of concept kind of series, very much in the same way of kind of like Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits, but just more based on kids, more kind of wacky kind of sci-fi concept. And the very first pilot was based around The Green Slime. I don't know if they repurposed the story to make it work within that pilot, but I know they kind of took this film and jumped off with it, and that kind of inspiration kind of led to a much more successful piece of content for a lot of generations and a lot of fans, more than this film actually did. I don't know what the fan base for this film is. I don't know if it's underrated. I don't know if people actually secretly love this film. But now the storyline for The Green Slime is very simple. I'm going to keep this review very short and sweet for you guys, and to kind of give you just a general thoughts and impressions as I go along. It's basically based on a space station. I think it's like Gamma 3, I think it is. And they come across a planet which has this green slime, and the green slime basically turns into monsters. And most of the film is basically the entire cast going back and forth in terms of what this thing is. Green kind of intelligence that's kind of forming and changing into some sort of monstrous creatures. And you've got a love story, you've got disputes on the ranks, you've got tension between some of the crew members, and that's what the film is. It's a very kind of schlocky throwback to those kind of B movies, 60s kind of 50s B movies, with very kind of Doctor Who level kind of, practical kind of green puppetry work, and some of it's pretty good. It's actually pretty well done considering. It's nothing too terrifying or anything that imaginative. It's just kind of, there are better movies that have done this kind of thing, like The Blob, whether it's the original, whether it's the kind of the remake. I do believe that Kinji Fukasaku was a director for hire in this film. I don't think this was his passion project or something that he desperately wanted to do. I don't think, after watching kind of like some of the movies leading up to this was one, but it does kind of lean into some of his later movies, which I do know he goes more sci-fi. I definitely know he goes more supernatural, and he does have more collaborations with American cast much later on. So I think this is a kind of a precursor to being a director which is very accessible, not just to kind of Japanese market, but also to the US, and to be kind of very kind of open and fluid and kind of, be experimental. And I think he directs the best he can. I don't really see much of him in this film. I think that's just down to what the film is. I don't really see his kind of influence. It's well put together for the most part. But the film itself, for me, it doesn't do anything. I didn't get anything out of this film. It's not designed for me as an audience member. I appreciated the slockiness of it in terms of the B-movie, but it's not cheesy enough. It's not kind of violent enough. It's not particularly that interesting as a concept, being the fact this has been done to death at this point. And even when you go back to some of the old original movies, old 60s kind of films, sometimes there is some kind of creative influence, and I like the fact that this film has inspired a better piece of material within the Magic Theatre 3000. I'm glad that's something that's jumped off from this film, essentially, but not one to kind of rave about or talk about, at least not for me anyway. But it's good to see something different from the director. It's good to see kind of like a benchmark, or kind of a bullet point of like, okay, so he did this collaboration, and it kind of led to some other movies which he did in more American-based kind of audiences, which I know he does later on, which I'm quite excited to check out more than I did with this one. So yeah, The Green Slime, not for me. It's a very much a 60s kind of B-movie. It's all its attitude, its kind of its characters, its design, its monsters. It's all fine, it's passable, it's serviceable, whatever you want to call it. If you are interested, it has got a Warner Bros. Archives release, I do believe, on Blu-ray, so it is available. You can access this film. So what are your thoughts and opinions on The Green Slime? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on the kind of the jumping point from this? Do you think Kinji Fukasaku took this as a kind of a learning curve for his later movies within more of these kind of American kind of collaborations later on? Curious to see what your thoughts and opinions on this. So what are your thoughts on The Green Slime? Please comment down below. See you in time, guys. Amphlett Reviews. Signing out.